and my eyes just rolled back in my head. My body went completely limp, and my heart stopped. And that's the last thing I said.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Arham, and I welcome you in another exciting episode of the Business Narrative. Today, we have a guest who says this that if you are doing business without business plan and purpose, you will not going to get success. Yes, he is Emmy-nominated director, and with that, he is the founder and CEO of Spirit Media, Bill Dolan. Bill, thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you, Arham, for having me. It's a great to be here on the podcast.
Bill, you were working in media industry, you were television director, producing content, but suddenly you have decided to be an entrepreneur. Like how this transition happened? What was the motivation behind running your own media company?
It wasn't a transition I actually chose. I mean, I grew up having an interest in television, and then by the grace of God, landing a position at one of the networks here in the United States where I grew as a director. And I loved what I did, but I'd married my high school sweetheart. We wanted to have a family. And you start thinking, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to pay for this? How are we going to make things work? And that's when I started thinking maybe I needed to look at another way of making money. And I tried a couple of things, and I was bad at it. I mean, I was bad at some of these things. Financial planning, marketing, sales things. I'm not Mr. Sales Guy. And keep in mind, I was in my 20s. So after a series of failures, which is very common, I landed on a relationship where someone said, you know what, we need help producing large scale events. And it seems like you're a director, right? Could you help us? I said, well, sure, let's see if it's a good fit. Turned out that producing live events was like producing live television. You know, you had to know your audience. You needed to understand what the message was, what you wanted to know, what you want them to feel, what you want them to do, how you create an experience, how do you bring a brand to life, and then what's the technology to do that. I'd been trained in that. And I did that for this guy, and he said it was so good. He shared it with a friend who shared it with another friend who shared it with another friend. And that was really the launch of our company. And by the way, then my wife and I proceeded to have 5 kids. So it worked out really well. And I continued balancing my work as a live television director for the network affiliate with this side business until I had a situation where I was like completely fed up. I had a situation where I needed to leave, and I did leave live television, and I went into full-time entrepreneurship. Again, it wasn't a choice that I said, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. What I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to take care of my family, and I wanted to be able to produce media that was meaningful and to do things that made a difference in the world. And so entrepreneurship and following that path was really the gateway of how I got into it.
I think it's a chain reaction, like by one project and to another project, you were getting projects by reference, right? You says this many times that uh, doing your own business was your necessity, right? So, like, why it was your necessity? Because media, there are a lot of good directors I know personally. They get a lot of good salary, but when you are trying to shift, you faced a lot of challenges, right? So what was the main challenges you faced, and why it was your necessity?
Simple necessity was raising a family. You know, my wife wanted the freedom to be a mother, and we want to have children. And children are expensive; they just are. And I wanted to create opportunities for my kids. I wanted to create opportunities where, um, uh, whether it was going to the right school or being able to participate in activities or be able to have a great educational experience or to expose them to things that I thought would really help them grow as people. And so I just knew that came with a cost. And that's where I said, okay, I need to be able to do this. Now, keep in mind that once you become an entrepreneur, if you're a solopreneur and it's just you and you're just working hard and doing what you need to do, um, it's a simpler overhead structure. But at the point at which you recognize that you need to grow, and part of that growth is through contracting or employing others, Now, all of a sudden, you have a much bigger responsibility. Now I realize that with employees that our agency, Spirit Media, has, I think about them as an extension of my family. The same way I want the best opportunity for my family, I want the best opportunities for their families. I don't want them to just trade time for dollars so that they can pay their bills. I want them also to have enriching lives, and I want them to be able to live their dreams. And so I genuinely care about my people, and that puts even more responsibility, I think, on leaders. Is we don't just want to use people, we want to lift up people. And that's my approach to my employees and my team and my contractors. And that motivates me. That motivates me because I care about them deeply, even as I care about the clients who will hire me and ask me to produce something for them.
Bill, in 1999, you had experienced a near death experience, right? So, how you revived and how that experience changed you and helped you to be a good leader.
Honestly, um, Arham, it was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. I mean, most people think the worst thing that could happen to you is you die. And I can say now, it's not the worst thing that could happen. It turned out to be an enlightening experience for me. Now, just a little background. The one thing about having the pressure as an entrepreneur is you work hard. I mean, in many cases, I know there's uh, entrepreneurs who have it together and say, "Oh, I only work this window and I do this." Look, most entrepreneurs work all the time. They're thinking about their business all the time. They're thinking about their clients all the time. They don't really rest without having dreams about what they need to do, what they need to fix, what they can make better. And and I was that case. In fact, the sad part about my journey was that while I worked really hard and got to this point to create an opportunity for my family, I had created a job for myself where I was traveling all the time. I was on planes, I was staying in hotels, I was working with big celebrities and world leaders and doing all these really exciting projects. And most people would look at what I was doing and say, "Wow, that's success." But the truth is that while my career looked like it was very successful, and it was, I was an absentee father and an absentee husband. I was not being there personally for my wife. I wasn't there the way I wanted to be for my kids. And it created a lot of stress in me to think, how do I do this? And an opportunity came up to produce a documentary. Now, I had done long form programming before, but this was going to be an opportunity where I could dig into a project. And then obviously, if you get distribution, then you live off the residuals. And then you could go project to project, not be on the road all the time. I thought this could be the balancing act I've been looking for. So, and just a tip for anybody in the production industry watching this, a lot of us get caught up in our own production. It's like, oh, we got to do the production, do the production. That's important. But a production without distribution is just a hobby. And so I recognized that early because I'd worked for network affiliates. I understood that distribution was key. Having an audience was a key, not just a product. So I got an opportunity to go to Nashville and sign a deal with a distributor. Now, here's the best part. It wasn't just, will you distribute my product? It's he was going to distribute and write me a big advance check. I thought, okay, this is it. This is the beginning of a new season. So it was January 28th, 1999. I hopped on a plane with my best friend, Timothy. Timothy, by the way, he's a gospel singer. He's a giant guy. I mean, big giant guy. He's got a beautiful big voice. And he's sitting in the aisle, and I'm sitting in my window seat. And I'm thinking, today is going to be a day that changes my life. It just didn't change the way I thought it was. Because 20 minutes into the flight, I started to feel kind of sick, and it was really weird. I'm never sick on a flight, ever. But here I was sitting there feeling uncomfortable, and things started to close in on me. And I realized something was wrong. And I finally turned to Tim. I said, "Tim, something's not right." And that's the last thing I said. And my eyes just rolled back in my head. My body went completely limp, and my heart stopped. Now, Tim, being the dear best friend you could ever hope for, after realizing this was real, began doing chest compressions right there in the seat, and just pushing, see if he could revive me. Nothing happened. So he picked me up, put me in the aisle, and he started doing chest compressions. And he kept going and kept going and kept going. And he said he got to the point where he realized he was going to have to break my ribs. And so as he was pulling back his fist, just get ready to give me the punch of a lifetime, I took a breath and I came back. Now, I can tell you this, that there's really two sides of the story, in that when I left, I had a profound experience with God. And that's a much deeper story. I write about it in my book, the 7 DRM, the 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing. And I explain how that experience not only challenged me, but challenged why we are here, and why business and marketing is more than just a way of making a living. It's a way of literally creating a legacy. And for those people that say, I want something deeper, I want something more profound, I want to have meaning and fulfillment, not just make money. Trust me, this is why I wrote the book. And so that experience that I had with God changed me forever. But then when you come back, for many people who have near-death experiences, you start going through a lot of reflection. Why? Why am I here? Why did I get to come back? Why do I get to take the next breath? Why do I get to have the privilege of having an interview with my new friend? And those are the things that really started to bubble up in me and change me. For example, I mean, number one, if you had to say what's literally most important thing in this world, important thing, it's love. It's love that I believe emanates from God, but it is that expression of love that we have for each other, and the love that we can bring to this world, and love in the form of kindness and caring and empathy and goodness and generosity. All the things that are fruits of love become the most powerful expression of the human experience. And then the second element is recognizing you can only have that in relationship. And we can talk about love and put it on posters on the wall, and that's good. Oh, love, that's sweet. But love in action is the powerful force that connects us and brings goodness and healing to a world that often struggles with loving. And so that whole thinking and that model changed me. It changed my values. It changed my focus. And it meant that as a producer, I realized that from being in a place where I was doing it for me, and certainly I had good reasons for my family, I went transition from power to a spirit of generosity. How can I give to this world? How can I make a difference in this world? And as media producers and what you're doing, I mean, there's people that watch you. They listen to you. They watch your media, and everything you do has an opportunity to make an impact on their life. And we have this sacred trust to say, what kind of impact will we have? Will it be positive, encouraging, uplifting, inspiring, healing, or will it be destructive or deceptive or distracting? And so when we get to that point where we have that peace that who we are is a gift, the breath we took is a gift, it changes the business model. It changes the marketing model. It changes our life model. And I am forever grateful. And I will just say, I'm still in process. Every day, I mean, I had a profound experience where I crossed the threshold of eternity. I've got eternity's worth of lessons to continue to learn and definitely apply, because I'm still a guy in process. a guy who's learning, a guy who falls on my face and makes mistakes, but now a guy that gets back up and moves forward because I realize that you and I are here for a reason.
You say this often many times, and I mentioned in my introduction as well that companies with purpose, they will going to get success. Like how these companies can build purpose in the environment, a working environment, and for customers.
I ultimately believe that understanding why you're doing what you're doing is foundational to being able to do what you do well. I mean, think about this. Anybody that's ever lived in a city where they're building projects, especially skyscrapers, giant buildings, it starts with a vision. That architect has a vision, and there's a purpose for why they're doing that. But that purpose for us is like taking that vision and saying, now I need to build the foundation. What is the foundation that my business, that my life, that my marketing will be built on? And it's not a pretty sight. In fact, if you've watched buildings going up, they spend weeks digging a hole. And they dig and they dig and they dig and they're digging this foundation because they realize the greater the building, the stronger the foundation has to be. And the foundation of every life, every great business is purpose. If that purpose is shallow, it'll come into challenges. It will shake with circumstances and geopolitical things that will really challenge that business. But when you understand why you are here, the purpose you're here to fulfill, and then I would say go on to the vision of what it looks like when you fulfill that, that will help every leader, not only to make sure that they're honoring that purpose and working towards that purpose, it saves them from distraction. And it also saves them from the shaking and the obstacles that happen every day. And when you face those obstacles, you recognize that, yeah, maybe I didn't get the viewers I want, or maybe I didn't make the money I want, or maybe I didn't make the market share I wanted, or maybe I didn't hit the look. You get up every day because you recognize I'm here for purpose. I'm here to fulfill it. And no matter how hard, no matter how long it takes, I am committed and I will persist with grit and passion to complete that. And that's only built on a firm foundation of purpose. Outside of that, it's just discipline. Discipline isn't bad, but discipline will only carry you so far.
Bill, you also say this that be so good so that they cannot ignore you. Ignoring means like be. What does a good means? Like being good means being arrogant. Like we see that many artists on social media, they present themselves that they are the boss and they holds each and everything. That's what you means. Like what is the actual meaning of being good so that they cannot ignore you?
The be so good is not to look so good, act so good, pretend to be good. It really challenges us to be good. And when it comes to being good, really it's about our calling. So if, for example, you're podcasting, do everything you can to be the best podcaster you can be. Everything you can. And understand this too, that there's a difference between being and becoming. There's a term that uh, uh, people say we're human beings, not human doings, you know? And sometimes we confuse just going through the motions to really becoming the person we're called to be. And that really comes with that focus. It doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean that you're even the best of the best. But it does mean at your core, if it's part of that purpose, then whatever that is, be the best version of you and be the best version of, especially you can, your unique craft. No, there's no one like you. So to that degree, you have no competition other than the person in the mirror. But when you look at that person to say, are you being so good at what you do and who you are, you can't be ignored. And people go, there's something about this person. There's something about the quality of their work. And when you are being so good, you can't be ignored. And that, by the way, that's not my quote. That is actually by an actor and comedian, Steve Martin, who said that when he was giving career advice to young actors. Just be so good, you can't be ignored. Um, in the world of competition, and we do live a world where people are competing and they're comparing, constantly comparing. Um, and just a quick note, you mentioned people act in this way. I love how you kind of, here I'm going to pretend to be arrogant, stuff like this. And look, that is the opposite of being so good. You can't be ignored. That is pretending to be somebody else that makes you ignorable. Because look, if I see another picture of someone with their car or from their house, or they look pretty or what like that, those are all over the place. And I wish them well. I really do. But if you're pretending to be somebody else, you'll never know if you've really become the best version of yourself because you've been pretending all your life. And that's a breakthrough in that comment. It's a secret breakthrough inside that comment.
And I'm a big fan of Martin, and I wish that I can meet him. And I've seen a lot of his work, and I admire him as an actor. AI is a hot topic nowadays, and people think that AI will going to steal the jobs of people, and especially in media field. People think that AI will going to write scripts, AI will going to direct, AI will going to produce content for television, social media, or entertainment industry. As an seasonal entrepreneur and as a seasonal content creator who have been producing content since 2 decades, what is your take on it? That AI is it true? If I say in simple words, that is it true that AI will be going to replace actors in media industry?
Going back to this idea of your identity is recognize who you are, because the great benefit of AI is it's a fabulous tool. And it reminds me a lot of, and I think people need to embrace and look at AI. I need to understand it. It reminds me of 100 years ago when people used to ride around on horses. And then suddenly the automobile was introduced. And anybody that wanted to get from one place to the other had to make a decision. Are they going to use the automobile or are they going to use the horse? And there was a challenge in that you had to make decisions. What are you going to use to be more efficient? But the other thing, there's a lot of people that spent time putting shoes on horses that lost their jobs because they had attached their identity to one form of transportation versus being attached to transportation. I'm not saying I have a secret for what they should have done 100 years ago, but it makes us wake up today and say, if we are creators, we don't just make media, are we creators? Then we need to make sure that we are using the tools, but not abusing the tools, that we are leveraging the speed and sometimes skills like we'll use AI, for example. We just wrote a very complex script for a client, and it needed to go out to about 3 million people in a certain population. Well, when here in the United States, we have found if you want to find a median place, rather than trying to be really complex, write it at a third grade level. The sentences are shorter, the language is a little simpler, and it means everybody will understand it. Okay? Well, we could go and use AI and we could say, evaluate this on its readability. If someone were speaking this, things like that. Great tool. And we were able to pull out words. We said, that's a little complex. We said something that's going to be stuck for somebody. We also use that to be able to do word searches and ideas like that. So there's a lot of AI tools that we can use. But at the point at which AI replaces us and writes the content for us, that bothers me. And I'll tell you why it bothers me. I think it's going to get better. But what it means is that more content is being flushed out into the marketplace. And guess what? that content is getting its source from the same place. So imagine literally the world being awash in a sea of sameness. Now let's go back to our Steve Martin remark. Be so good the world can't ignore you. That won't happen in the world of AI. What will happen in the world of AI is you can produce more content than anybody. So if volume is your trick, you win. But if value is your calling, then you need to have another thing called authorship. Because authorship means you wrote it. And that authorship also is attached to the word authority. And that means you're the authority, not your ability to aggregate information, but your ability to create and think in ways that no one has thought before. The AI hasn't found that yet. Only you have it. And so find your uniqueness, develop your uniqueness, but don't get stuck on the AI. Recognize it's just a tool.
I am thoroughly enjoying this podcast, Bill, because after a very long time, I have interviewed someone from my field. And now this is a time to detrack you a little bit because we have a surprise rapid fire question for you. I will going to ask you some rapid fire questions and you have to answer them very quickly. Bill, you are a morning person or night owl?
I'm a night owl.
Any fictional character that you want to play in your real life?
I relate to the person behind me, Iron Man. I'll just tell you why. Iron Man is a real flawed human being, but has found a way to be himself, but to amplify himself using tools.
Any application that is improving your productivity?
I'd say the biggest thing that improves our productivity on a daily basis is enhanced communication with our team, being very deliberate about our roles, our responsibilities, and really working more than ever to grow our skills. A lot of times as a company, we get roles and you're supposed to do this and supposed to do this and supposed to do this. We recognize more than ever that we've added to our responsibility collectively is growth, personal growth. So our growth in our skills as writers, as creators, as leveraging the technologies and the tools has now become a major part of what we do every day at Spirit Media. And I think it's what we're talking about. It's learning how to be better storytellers, learning how to use better technology, making sure that we're using more human skills and being empathetic. For example, I have a webcast that's coming out about leadership. And I'm going to go through a whole list of all the things. We're studying that and we're trying to be that. We're pushing ourselves to be better at that. And so that's a big thing we do at our agency that I would say I encourage everybody. Don't just think about doing, think about becoming. And what will it take to become better?
Are you politically correct every time or like you have some room for arguments?
Oh, no.
Any secret talent that nobody knows about you?
Secret talent. I think I don't have a lot of talent. The talents I have, um, I think probably are I have for my children, I make a lot of cartoon voices. And I don't share those a lot. But when I do storytelling or I'm reading them stories, they get all the characters from me.
So it means that you are able to do various voices as a dubbing artist, right?
I'm gonna eat you misas two pieces. Or when my kids, if I used to do a lot of work in Disneyland with Disney, and so when I would call, I'd be working with other parents and they would say, "Oh, my kids are at home and they know I'm at Disneyland." And so I'd get on the phone. This is probably really bad, but I go, "Hi, everybody. This Mickey. I'm here with your mom." And, and the kid loved it. So secret talent.
Okay, so this is the end of a rapid fire round. So, Bill, before leaving, any message for aspiring entrepreneurs, those people who are juggling around, those people who want to dive into this media industry or content creation field? What is one message you want to give to all of them?
Well, I would say, look, if you're called to media, you're called to produce, you feel like you're stirring and you're calling. Um, it's I'll just be real honest, it's hard. It's very hard, especially now, harder than when I started out because there's millions of people that want to be like you. They want to create, they want to influence, they want to do things, and there's tools that make it easy. When I started out, I had to spend thousands and thousands of dollars for the equipment that I needed to be a television producer and a director and have an agency, all that stuff. Now you can produce motion pictures with your phone. Okay. And so the deception in the world is that if I have the tools, it makes me good. And that's not true. It is what's in here and what's in here that make you good. The tools will grow. And so continue to press to grow as an artist, to grow as a storyteller, and know that no matter how hard it is, that burn in your soul. And going back to when we started with purpose, if this is your purpose and you want to use media to make a difference in the world, now granted it's fun too, but recognize you have such an opportunity to make a difference in the world, then get up every day, practice your craft, try to find someone that you can work with to do it more and learn, and do it every day. Because if you step away from it, there's a real risk that you might lose it. But if you keep pressing into it and hold on to that dream, it might take you weeks, it might take you months, it could even take you years. But only those that stay, hold that dream present, press through in the face of obstacles, and become so good you can't be ignored, you'll find your place in this market. And you'll be able to do the things that someday, like me, I look back at my career and I'm blown away, literally blown away. Things that I'd never planned on, things I never thought I'd experienced, people I thought I'd never meet. But because I pressed on, I've been able to do incredible things. And that's there for you if you're willing to press on in that journey.
Thank you so much, Bill, for your precious time. And I hope these tips will going to help a lot of young folks. Do remember this, that any obstacle comes in your way, it means you are on a right track. So keep listening, keep daring, and keep achieving. We will be going to meet you in the next episode. Till then, take care. Bye bye.